Life doesn't end with menopause. It's the beginning of a new adventure. Strap in and enjoy the ride. Unknown author. Welcome to Living at Your Finest podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Babs. I'm a triple board certified family, obesity, and lifestyle medicine physician, and I am the founder of Living at Your Finest Wellness, a holistic direct primary care practice. Did you know that 80% of lifestyle-related chronic diseases within our communities are preventable, with poor diet being the primary culprit? Now, contrary to what we thought, that it was our unfortunate genes, the good news is that we can make changes together to improve our health and quality of life. So that's what this podcast is all about. The Living at Your Finest podcast is devoted to helping families to live at their finest well-being using a holistic approach with a healthy lifestyle to nourish and flourish as a whole, vibrant, and healthy champion. So join me and my guests as we share transformational and sustainable skill sets from our health and wellness journey to support you and your families in achieving optimal well-being. Ready to live at your finest? Well, let's get to it. Welcome back to Living at Your Finest podcast show. I hope you are as excited as I am because of this title, Reclaiming Your Vitality and Maintaining Your Weight During Midlife. I know, perimenopause, menopause, it seems to be the buzz right now. So for the guys, they're like, oh, what is going on? But listen, women, we've gone through so much and now we have the floor. So strap up with me and let us talk about it. So I am excited that you're here today. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And if this is a repeat listening in, fantastic. I'm glad you are here. I hope you and yours are doing well. And as we enter into the second quarter of the year, I'm like, can you imagine second quarter already? I hope you and yours are doing well. So let's talk about it. Menopause everywhere, and rightfully so. So it is something that every woman will experience. And unfortunately, a lot of us are confused, unprepared, and are dismissed by our doctor. I know when I was in medical school, we barely learned anything about how to care for menopause, right? We just knew the basic stuff. We were even taught, don't check anything, don't do any labs, just live with it, suck it up. But we know that things have changed. As women approach menopause, a natural and transformative process unfolds in our bodies, right? So what's really going on? Our ovaries that produces estradiol, it's decreasing. Same thing with the progesterone and the testosterone. All of these are on a gradual decline. And all these hormones play a vital role in regulating our metabolism, our body composition, and any of these deficiencies is associated with aging. So we definitely need to pay attention to what is going on with our bodies, particularly the shift in the increase in the body tendency to store fat. There's also the susceptibility of muscle loss, as well as weight gain, insulin resistance, and worsening of the cardio metabolic health. So there's a lot going on all together. Now, I want to share a few statistics with you. So in 2018, statistics highlighted that 43% of women navigating through menopause struggle with obesity. And this cascade is endless. Can you imagine that it's estimated that 70 million women in the US are at menopausal age, and only 4% of them are being treated with the FDA-approved treatment. 85% of women will experience menopause symptoms, and women over 50 are the fastest growing employment group. 1.8 billion annually is lost in productivity due to untreated symptoms. Now, if you're not alarmed, I don't know what else would alarm you. There's a lot of data around this. So we really do need to understand the connection between our hormones, our metabolism, and diseases by enhancing, just embracing the strategies around this. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you some information about why and how it's all happening, and then we'll talk about a few solutions. All right, my goal here is to provide women with tools and information that you need to take control of your health. All right, it's time to talk about menopause. There's no shame. It's all physiology, right? And so when we're empowered, we can do better. All right. I do want to share that I will be speaking about all things perimenopause and menopause. If you're in the Atlanta area, I invite you to join us at the East Cobb Fit Club, and it's in Johnson's Ferry Road. It's going to be on April 23rd at 6:30. And we'll just have women time. We're going to be talking about, all things menopause. I think it's so important that we're empowered. All right. So as we get started, I want to share the 4 A's, okay, of menopause and perimenopause. Well, let's start with awareness, okay? Awareness, acceptance, affirmation, and action. All right. So we're going to start with awareness. So we need to know what's going on. As I stated from the very beginning, there is a lot going on in the body, in the female body. All right. And sometimes you can look at it as the menopause iceberg. So the iceberg is at the bottom. And what do you see at the bottom before you see the manifestation on the top? You see things like UTIs, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, which is thinning of the bone, dementia, osteopenia, increased cancer risk, inflammation, diabetes, metabolic health. These are the things that are happening at the bottom. But at the top, what do you see manifested? So it'll be things like brain fog, hot flashes, mood swing, weight gain, night sweats, sleep disturbances, and irritability. It's a real thing. I know it, I've experienced it. And this is all because of the declining hormone. So before we get to that, I want to share the main hormones changes that occur during menopause so that maybe you kind of get a sense of how this is affecting disrupting the whole bodily function. So let's start with estrogen. So estrogen and weight gain. So estrogen has this role in fat distribution. All right, so estrogen regulates our fat distribution by modulating the activities of the lipoprotein lipase. All right, so a lot of technical stuff, but really what the LPL does, it promotes fat storage in the adipose tissues, while the HSAL, which is the hormone sensitive lipase, what it does is that it facilitates fat breakdown. So when you have lower estrogen, it pretty much decreases the breakdown. It decreases the breakdown, leading to more fat storage, and unfortunately around the abdomen area. Okay, that's one. Another thing that estrogen does typically is that estrogen enhances insulin sensitivity. So your insulin works better. But when your insulin works better, then you have glucose metabolism. But the decline of estrogen, what you're having is that no longer is your insulin sensitive. So it's now storing fat, and you're having insulin resistance. Another thing, appetite regulation. Estrogen, it interacts with leptin and ghrelin. Those are two hunger hormones that are produced in the gut lining. So when you have decreased estrogen, it disrupts this whole balance. So you can imagine that you have increased appetite and hence caloric intake. Okay, so that's estrogen. Again, knowing that estrogen, we have so many of them all over our bodies, the storage, the receptors, it's important to know that. The next thing is progesterone. So for progesterone and weight gain, what does that really mean? Progesterone influences renal function by promoting sodium and water retention. Okay, so that's what it does. So during menopause, because you have decreased progesterone levels, it leads to fluid retention, making you feel bloated, all those things happening. And then another thing with appetite, progesterone affects the central nervous system interacting with our neurotransmitters that regulate the appetite. So can you imagine having decreased progesterone now leading for you to have increased appetite and craving? Not good. Another thing that it does is that insulin resistance. So insulin resistance, when we talk about insulin, it's a hormone that our body makes through the pancreas. So what happens is that during menopause, we have a decrease in the estrogen, right? Which affects the insulin signaling pathways, and then causing us to not metabolize our glucose properly, and then impacting fat storage. So insulin resistance often results in what we call hyperinsulinemia, so more insulin produced, and insulin is a fat storing hormone. So insulin is supposed to be produced whenever we eat, all right? And the reason is that it's supposed to take that sugar that is produced from the food and send it into the cell, not in the bloodstream. But if we have insulin resistance and the body's like, oh, what's going on? We need insulin. Let's produce more. So you just have a whole bunch of insulin that is just sitting around, not knowing what to do, storing fat. So it's not the best scenario. Another aspect that causes weight gain in perimenopause and menopause is muscle mass and physical activity. So there is a natural decline in our muscle mass. Menopause is associated with sarcopenia, and that just means age-related loss of muscle mass. Generally speaking, for women after 30, we are losing muscle mass. So it's anywhere from 3 to 8%, and every decade it's worsened. If you don't use it, you lose it. I remember when I used to see a lot of older people in the gym working out. I'm like, what? They're slim. What? Why are they working out? Now I get it. Now I understand, because they're trying to maintain muscle mass. All right. Now, estrogen plays an important role in maintaining muscle mass. And in its decline, what happens? You have decrease in muscle protein synthesis and increased muscle degeneration. So very, very important. And if you lose muscle mass, you're certainly going to reduce your basal metabolic rate. Now, of course, decreased physical activity, hormonal, you don't feel like it, there's mood changes, you're not motivated, you're not doing anything. And if you're just not moving, you see, I'm standing right now because I got to keep that muscle active, right? Got to keep that muscle active, got to keep it contracting. So lower activity levels contribute to weight gain and decrease overall energy expenditure. And that's why you want to move around, because that will help you burn more energy. So there are all these factors, all these numerous physiological changes that occurs during menopause, decrease in our estrogen, progesterone, and certainly testosterone, all leading to shift in fat distribution, increased appetite, metabolic changes, and hence fat storage. So we need to be mindful. Once we know better, we can do better. So this is the first aspect, which is our awareness. Now we're going to talk about how we can, take action. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. My goal on this podcast is to empower, educate, and encourage you to take actionable steps to triumph at living at your finest, body, mind, and spirit. Of note, the information provided here is for educational purposes only and does not substitute as medical advice. Please discuss your healthcare needs with your licensed medical professional. If you are in need of a compassionate and comprehensive holistic physician or know someone who is, please reach out through my website, livewellness.com, for a meet and greet. It will be my honor to talk to you. Are we connected on social media yet? I share more in-depth content on best practices to ensure that you live at your finest daily. So please join me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Living at Your Finest Wellness, where we can learn together and stay connected. Lastly, please subscribe to iTunes if you have not done so already, and share the podcast within your circle of influence. An extra step? Leave a review and let me know what topics or discussions you would like to hear more of. Thanks in advance. It is always a thing of joy to hear from you. Now, let's get back to today's episode. All right, so now let's talk about solutions. We talked about all the reasons why we have a lot of symptoms, negative symptoms during perimenopause and menopause. And just for clarity, when we talk about perimenopause, that's just around menopausal age, which is anywhere from 45 to 55. We are finding that much younger, in maybe late 30s, early 40s, people are beginning to hit that perimenopause. It could be as long as 10 years before you could start that symptoms of perimenopause and all the things we talked about with the iceberg. So it starts as early or as late, but that's the range, with the average age occurring at 52. Now, menopause, though, is really one day that you achieve menopause, meaning that for 12 long months, you have not seen your cycle, you have not bled at all. And then all of a sudden, there's no bleeding after 12 months. So then you're menopausal, and that's where we say postmenopausal. So it's the period after not seeing your cycle for 12 months that you're considered menopause. Okay, so those are the definitions that you need to be aware of. Everybody's different, everyone is unique. So what I usually say is, kind of ask your mom if she's still alive, or siblings, sisters, when do they, if you have older siblings, when do they attain menopause? That kind of give you an average. We have found that African Americans tend to have more, or should I say, severe perimenopausal symptoms, all right? And every one of us is going to go through it. We are all going to go through it. As a woman, we are going to go through it, but everybody manifests differently, okay? So Now I would like to share some strategies, okay? Some strategies and how to manage menopause. Remember that I talked about our 4 A's, very important. The first A is awareness and acceptance, right? So be aware of it and accept it that we're all going to go through it, right? And then affirmation. What can I now do? How can I accept this? But also be proud of those changes. And that's why I had my, inspirational quote at the beginning that, pretty much said that life does not end with menopause. It's the beginning of a new adventure. Strap in and enjoy it. I am learning to enjoy it. I'm 49. I'll be 50 in December at the time of this recording. I've had some really interesting symptoms, brain fog, not being able to multitask like I used to, a lot of dryness in, the vagina area, just all sorts of interesting, my hair. My hair used to be able to cut my hair and it will grow again. That's not happening as much as I would love. So I'm learning now how to work towards enhancing my health by adapting some strategies, which I would like to share with you. Okay, so let's start with a balanced diet. It is important now more than ever to have a balanced diet because we want to have foods that will kind of level out our hormones, right? So your estrogen, progesterone, your testosterone. You want to make sure that you're eating fiber-rich food. So you don't have to be a vegetarian if you don't want to. But you do have to have more vegetables in your diet because the greener the better. It helps to level out, give you some estrogen and level it up whether you're not too low and too high. So a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole food, grains, all of that is important. You want to reduce ultra processed foods, so minimally processed. That way you keep your sugar down, which causes a lot of inflammation. And I'm speaking from experience being a sweet tooth. I have learned that whenever I have too much sugar in me, I am not functioning at my best. I'm having all that pain. And just so that you know, if you haven't heard of the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, it is a thing. Your joints hurt, everything hurts, and that's just because of the estrogen receptors that are everywhere in our bodies. So you want to avoid snacking on foods that are not healthy for you, but eat foods that are more beneficial. Number 2, you really want to, I know, exercise. You got to move. You got to move. Look at it as you're doing your body a favor by moving. You are doing your body a favor. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you just sit still and not move or get up, you're going to be stiff. You're going to be in pain and it's not fun. I remember I usually stretch. I do in the mornings and evenings, but I cut back on it because I got to a really busy period in my life and I started hurting so bad in my hip. And I'm like, man, I didn't fall. I wasn't doing any intense race. Why am I hurting? Only to realize that it was just joint issues, musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. I increased my stretching, made it consistent part of my activity, and then it improved. So you want to make sure you're doing aerobic exercises, walking, swimming if you can swim, strength training to activate those muscles, right? Because that's what's going to boost your metabolism and that's what's going to improve insulin resistance. Even if it's just calf raises, right? Just do those calf raises as you sit, do them. Do a set of 10, do a set of 3 sets of 10 or 15, and just advance, just move, stay active, okay? Sleep is the third one. Sleep, 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 sleep. Oh, goodness, I can't say it enough. Poor sleep affects our hormone altogether. Growth hormone, leptin, which is satiety hormone, ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. If you're not sleeping adequately, 7 to 8 hours, of restorative rest, uninterrupted rest, we are just messing up our hormones and we have high cortisol. So we really want to sleep more than ever. Okay. Another one is stress management. We really have to manage our stress. How do we do that? Breath work is important. If that includes meditation, nature, just being outdoors is so therapeutic. And all of it together decreases your cortisol, increases your melatonin so that you feel more rejuvenated. So stress management is important. Social connection is also key. You want to boost oxytocin. That really will help with your mood. It will help with social connection. And it will just help you. I mean, with women, that's why we're gathering to talk with women. What are we going do? How can we work with this? How can we improve? What are the treatment options? When we come together and we can connect and bond, it's a great thing. Now, I want to end by sharing about medical support. You want to talk to a menopause specialist. Menopause specialists will help you figure out which bioidentical hormone is good for you. I know there's been a lot of talk about, should I not? I want to explain something very briefly here. We live in a world of lifelong learning, and we know that there's been a lot of negative connotation about hormones. But I want to share something about the Women's Health Initiative study, the WHI. Maybe you've heard of it or not, but this was a long-term women's health study that was conducted. It was within the period of 1991 to 2005 when they did a study on a group of women just to see what the benefits of hormones were in postmenopausal health. And it was funded by the National Heart, Lung and Blood Institute. And it was all just with the intent to develop preventative strategies against the top health conditions, right? So this clinical trial segment of the study involved 68,000 participants, and they were broken into three main groups. So one was with the HRT sub-trial. So they were giving estrogen and they were giving progesterone. So the synthetic. So this was given to lower the rates of heart disease and bone fractures in postmenopausal women. And then there was second group where they just did dietary modification. Researchers examined whether there was low-fat diets rich in fruits and vegetables and all of that. And then the third group was just calcium and vitamin D supplements sub-trial, where they looked at whether the supplements help them protect them from fracture. So during these observational studies, researchers analyzed data from the clinic's visits, and participants self-reported their to assess their disease risk factors. And so what they found was, unfortunately, they found that the people that were on the HRT, the hormone replacement sub-trial, remained the most controversial part of the WHI study, because women with a uterus were given daily doses of estrogen in combination with progestin. And they found that a lot of them had increased risk of breast cancer, as well as higher risk of cardiovascular disease, like coronary artery disease, strokes, and embolism, clot. So they had to stop this trial early. So yeah, because of all these adverse effect, they really had to stop it. So in response to this, they kind of before this, only 40% of people were taking hormones. And after this whole thing, everyone just like, we're not taking it. So the WHI study floored. It caused a lot of controversy. Even in medical school, they didn't teach us much about hormone replacement. But what they didn't say, though, was the type of hormones that were used. So the estrogen that was used was made from the horses, and then the progestin that was used was also synthetic. So they were not bioidenticals, they were synthetic, okay? And compared now to the bioidenticals, which are as natural as possible. So that was one. And then two, the researchers did not randomize the treatment group based on their baseline breast cancer risk. Okay, so that was another flaw. And the study did not factor outside variables. So what other associating issues did the patients have? They didn't do that. Was somebody already at risk for heart disease and you just gave them estrogen? They didn't do that. And then the third thing was that the study was not representative of all postmenopausal women. So there were a lot of flaws. But the good news is that now that we understand that there were different hormones that we use in the study, different from the bioidenticals, they're not the same. So apples and oranges, not the same. So the benefit of the WHI study is, at least it's opened our eyes. It's allowed us to collect data to help patients and the clinicians make informed healthcare decisions for women. And it's important that we have this data so that we know what to do with it and how to approach it. So I am saying now that we see that bioidenticals help to relieve menopausal symptoms. It's FDA approved, and five main things that it does is that it helps to alleviate hot flashes and night sweats so that you feel cooler and calmer. Another thing is that it improves sleep quality so that we can say goodbye to stressless nights. 3, it supports weight management by boosting our metabolism and helping us maintain healthy weight and mental clarity. All right. And certainly number 4 is the enhanced mental clarity, reducing brain fog. And then number 5, which is so important, it protects long-term health. All right. So bioidentical hormones, FDA approved, it shows that it protects long-term health by cardiovascular protection, osteoporosis prevention, reduce inflammation, and contributing to a healthier heart and lower cholesterol levels. So all that to say, the reason behind why there was a lot of controversy and where we are at the moment. All right. So with all this that I've discussed, it's just really just the superficial aspect of it all. But I hope that it's opened your eyes to understand that what you're going through, you're not alone, and you shouldn't suffer in silence. They are treatment. At my practice, I do what I call a protocol, the finest protocol, which is lifestyle redesign, everything that I just explained. We take advantage of bioidentical, all right? So bioidentical hormones. But before we go there, we also do botanicals with supplements and herbs and spices, all those things, seed cycling. There's multiple of things that I do, but I make it personalized to every patient. All right. I had to get additional training to be able to feel comfortable enough to do this. Of course, I had to heal and treat myself, and I'm still in that process alongside you. So menopause, weight gain, and all the symptoms that we talked about, having an understanding and implementing these strategies make a significant difference. So I hope that this has been helpful. Please share this episode with a friend, with a neighbor. Let them know that they're not alone and they should not sit in silence. I had a patient today and I was just applauding her for just speaking up and not being brushed aside and feel like herself again. I know I felt like myself just applying the botanicals and helping with a lot of dryness that I was experiencing and improved health. All right. So never feel that that's it for you and there's no hope. Okay. So if you're in the Atlanta area, again, I encourage you join us next Wednesday for all things menopause discussion. All right. So until next time, remember that you deserve to live at your finest because you are worth it. Take care and God bless.